Sitting here at the Days Inn before we bug out to go south, and I ran across this musical meme that I had to edit out of a video, which is linked below, reformat and share it with you. While this video is rendering prior to upload, I'm going to jump in the shower and wash all this coronavirus off of me. And after that, I'm going to the front desk and get a half a dozen more rolls of toilet paper. You never know when you're going to need it, or run into some lunatic hoarder who will buy it off you.
In this primary from a campaign that's about negative attacks into one about what we're for, because we cannot get re-elected. We cannot win this re-election. Excuse me, we can only re-elect Donald Trump.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Fake news. We found our guy. Well, he's no Donald. There's no bedwetter. But Biden's the only one that can win. So we begin to make him better. And every time he seems insane, fake news refrain. Don't mention he's rich, white, male, and older. Well, you know that it's a fool who likes this too. He's 76 and getting colder. Yeah, sweat it out and sweat it in. Fake news just spin. You're waiting for someone who's got morals. But don't you know now we are screwed? So fake news he'll do. This goon that we've got who's sniffing shoulders. Fake news, don't let me down. Don't chastise him, just let him pet her. Remember, we'll make him look really smart. That's how we start to make him better, 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 better,
It happened also suddenly, very unexpectedly, out of nowhere. I feel Joe Biden put his hands on my shoulders, get up very close to me from behind, lean in, smell my hair, and then plant a slow kiss on the top of my head. To have the Vice President of the United States do that to me so unexpectedly and just kind of out of nowhere, it was just shocking. It was shocking because you don't expect that kind of intimate behavior. You don't expect that kind of intimacy from someone so powerful and someone who you just have no relationship whatsoever to touch you and to feel you and to be so close to you in that way.
I shake hands, I hug people, I grab men and women by the shoulders and say, you can do this. And whether they're women, men, young, old, it's the way I've always been. It's the way I try to show I care about them and I'm listening.
I don't know about you, but that's the funniest shit I've heard since the Michael Jackson Beat It parody. I'll put that one at the end of this video repost.
It's official. Creepy Uncle Joe Biden. He's running for president.
Charlottesville, Virginia, is home to the author of one of the great documents in human history. It was there on August of 2017 we saw Klansmen and white supremacists and neo-Nazis come out in the open. Their crazed faces, illuminated by torches, veins bulging and bearing the fangs of racism, chanting the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. And they were met by a courageous group of Americans, and a violent clash ensued. And a brave young woman lost her life. And that's when we heard the words of the President of the United States that stunned the world and shocked the conscience of this nation. He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides?
Man, that looks like a full-scale Hollywood movie you put together. The music and everything, man, come on, man. The little intricate titles. It was good, though. You had me going there for a second, Joe. I ain't gonna lie, you had me going there for a second. Hey, you Democrats are all the same. Y'all stick to that same playbook. That same narrative. Yeah, you can't attack the president with his policies. Yeah, lowest unemployment of all time. The country, the economy is doing amazing. He's bringing back thousands of jobs, if not millions of jobs that Obama said he couldn't get back. Right? So instead of attacking his policies, you attack his character. You pretty much told everybody that Donald Trump is the grand wizard of the KKK. Pretty much what you were trying to say there, Uncle Joe. You trying to make it seem like we still back in 1950, Uncle Joe. Joe, look, the only thing back in the 1950s is how you treat women. Yeah, smelling them and grabbing them.
Get out at a club and you see a fly girl, do the creep, and do the creep. And if you wanna make friends after ATM, do the creep, and do the creep. Well, we got a new dance, so get up on your feet. It's real easy to do, and it's called the creep. Let your hands flop around like a marionette. Pop your knees up and down and shaking your neck. Now pull your waistband up like you expecting a flood, and stick your hair down flat like it was covered in mud. Trim up your pencil mustache and pop them peepers. Pump this in your speakers, you a certified creeper. When you see a country peach laying out at the beach, do the creep and do the creep. And when a fine PYT walks in front of your tree, do the creep and do the creep.
What's wrong with you? Hey, little girl, how old are you? Man, 14, huh? I remember I was your age.
Remember what we were told, the reason why we lost the Congress in 16 was because of Obamacare, remember? And by the way, it probably was. People didn't know what it was. I came back from South Africa trying to see Nelson Mandela and getting arrested for trying to see him on Robben Island. He was in prison. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robben Island.
Your campaign has come out since and said, no, 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 you were separated from other people at the airport, but you did say arrest three times. Why?
I said arrested. I meant I was not able to move. Cops, upper counters would not let me go with them, made me stay where I was. I guess I wasn't arrested, I was stopped. Well, I'm looking forward to appointing the first African-American woman to the United States Senate. Not to satisfy. It's great to be in Georgetown. What a beautiful, beautiful town. And this building is magnificent. You know, we have a place called Georgetown, Delaware, that was founded in the 1600s. And it is a little like your town. It is the center of the county in the center, and it is literally the figurative and literal center of the southern county. But they talk like y'all do, kind of funny, you know what I mean? But by the way, I'm in a much different position when I got out of teaching. When I got out of the United States Senate, instead of taking a Wall Street job, and they're not bad, I'm not making them bad, but instead of doing the things that I never did before, I figured I wasn't going to change all these years of what I was comfortable doing. So I became a teacher. I became a professor. But here's the deal. I also wrote a book about my son. In 2005, 3,900 of them right here in the state of South Carolina.
I think that Bernie was so frightening, they picked a man that is showing obvious signs of dementia, which is astounding. Because if you consider that what he's displaying gets worse, what's he going to be like 3 years from now?
Yeah.
If he doesn't know what state he's in, he can't figure out who his wife is, and if he thinks 150 million people, which is half the population roughly of America, got killed, then what's he going to be like 2 years from now when that illness gets worse?
I want to be clear. I'm not going nuts. I can't talk. What do I do?
Do you think...
I don't think we should put... Look, we're dealing with who's going to be the president of the United States, and we shouldn't pussyfoot around with this. The man has something wrong with him, and it's serious. Not only that, his family has been stealing for 30 years. There are at least 8 cases in which the family made hundreds of thousands and millions off selling his public office. Now, it is possible. It is actually possible that when he said, I didn't know about it, he's so out of it, he didn't know about it.
I'm looking forward to this, man. You walk behind me in a debate. Come here, man. Rich Fitzgerald, the county executive, Allegheny County executive, being here, and we don't always live up to that's who we are. Go to Joe 30330 and help me in this fight. We can speak out and be more straightforward. Senator Joe, I mean, but I mean, it's not about, I know you're supporting by saying booing, but look, here's the deal. Union workers, the UAW took incredible cuts in their future. You don't have here in Miami, in Florida. You don't have it here. And that is, if you keep an audience. All these breakthroughs we have with the whole, dealing with the whole, help people who have or in fact are likely to get Alzheimer's by Wall Street bankers, CEOs, and hedge fund managers. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Right. I found that the secretary, we sat together in many meetings. My wife is a full-time teacher, taught all during when we were vice president. But President Trump and the demagogues around the world, how can a person dignity be maintained?
And she never yields. She does not break. She stands up.
The bills that the future president here, that the senator is talking about. We choose truth over facts. I keep my recommendation in private. Unlike you, I expect you would go ahead and say whatever was said privately with him. That's why I'll end the gag rule, the global gag rule that prevents money from getting to NGOs. $100 billion worth of loopholes in the law. Why they do that? I looked at it anyway. That's what I think my plan. I know what my plan does. I can't talk. What do I do? By strengthening. To conquer devastating diseases like cancer and addiction and Alzheimer's. Because we've neglected all my time in public life from since I've gotten involved. Folks, we're virtually energy independent. That's the essence of what my plan in detail lays out. I'm happy to discuss it more in detail if the Senator wants to. And so that triumph of democracy and liberalism over fascism and autocracy.
And you heard it in the debate. John McCain, I don't recognize him anymore.
We invested significantly in this city, in transportation, anyway, the point is we've made significant investments in this state, I expect, in this city. They also got that last year out of the mission statement of our citizenship and immigration services. And partnerships built on coercion, on non-traditional threats like weaponized corruption. We cannot be a credible voice on the proliferation of nuclear security and on proliferation of nuclear security. We'll look for enforceable commitments. They'll reduce emissions. I'm looking forward to this, man. You walk behind me in a debate. Come here, man.
I mean, the kid has terrible drug problems, and he becomes a multi-millionaire. Any father would want to know how, right? And since Daddy took him to China to make $1.5 billion of it, I noticed that you said he's soft on China.
Yeah.
If my family got, $1.5 billion investment for China, I don't think I'd be soft on China anyway, but it could affect you.
It could.
When he went to Iraq and he blew the Status of Forces agreement, and his brother got 1/3 of a $1.5 billion housing project, might have had an effect on it. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think when Joe Biden says that, I didn't know what was going on, when he says that, does that make him look even more out of it? Because that could be the best excuse he has. But when he makes that excuse, because that's the only way he can slide by, it just makes everybody doubt if he has what it takes to run the country, if you don't even know what your family's doing.
If he really doesn't know that his brother and his son was selling him out for 20 years and became multimillionaires, then he belongs somewhere else, not in the White House. And you know where he belongs.
So he's either corrupt or he's incapable of being the president, right? He's either corrupt or he's clueless.
Let me stop the fooling around. I have witnesses that know that he knew.
You do?
Of course he knew. Of course he knew. He knew probably from the beginning, and it's a scam. It's the Biden family enterprise. What do they monetize? They monetize his public office. When he's in the Senate, they do it with a real estate company. They do it with a bank. They do it with a private equity fund that goes bankrupt, and one guy in it is running a Ponzi scheme. And they make millions from that. And then they do it with Iraq, and they do it with Ukraine, and they do it with China. And those are the ones where they made millions. There are little ones where they made less, like Romania. This was an ongoing criminal enterprise. It should have been investigated when I first brought it out back in February. And the only reason it's affecting the presidential campaign is because it was covered up back in February by the press, by the Democrats, with the lies that the case had been debunked. I have the case. I have the arrest of the company 3 weeks before the prosecutor was fired. And I have the memo that shows that Hunter Biden was engaged in a $14.6 million money laundering scheme. Prosecutor got that 3 days before he was fired. The prosecutor has been poisoned. There's a record in the Austrian hospital with the foremost doctor in the world who saved Viktor Yushchenko's life. He was poisoned with mercury. Never even covered in the American press.
Well, they don't want to cover it, and if they have to face it, they just call it debunked and they look the other way. Can I play you some video, Mayor, of some unearthed Biden sound from early 70s, I think, 73 Cleveland? He's making some comments that made people think, wow, I haven't heard that before from Joe. Let's listen to him on Black Americans.
I think the two-party system, although my Democratic colleagues don't like me saying this, I think the two-party system is good for the South and good for the good for the black in the South.
All right, and then he follows that up with some comments about women, which some may think was a little sexist. Let's listen to that.
And the only analogy I can really think of is a football analogy, and I apologize to you women in the audience for not being able to think of a more appropriate analogy, but they told me here they didn't want you here anyway. I didn't expect any women to be here.
So say what you want about the content of that, 1973. If that had been Donald Trump on tape saying those exact things, all hell would have broken loose. But if it's Joe Biden, no one cares.
Of course. And if it were Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr., they'd both be indicted by now.
Right.
So the unfairness of it and the double standard is horrible. But I'll tell you what that displays to me. I mean, I've known Joe since 1976. And I know people went to law school with him. He was the dumbest guy in a law school class. I mean, that could be the product of an inadequate IQ. But right now, we got something worse going on. What I see, I mean, I've had relatives who, and I think we probably all have. If you can't figure out what's going on with Joe Biden right now, then you're covering up. And if you can't figure out that he was involved in the bribery, then you're really so naive. You shouldn't be covering anything. I mean, my God, I investigated lots of crimes. This would be one of the easier ones to prove. I mean, knock down easy documents, audio tapes, videotapes, confessions. You don't need anything else. And the cover-up that's going on is so corrupt. It actually is so corrupt. If we don't change it, America doesn't have much of a future in terms of a country that is as fair to Republicans as Democrats or gets politics out of the criminal justice system.
What do you think it says about the Democratic establishment that they will put forward a candidate that's obviously not doing well upstairs and obviously is very corrupt, very crooked with regards to family members getting rich off his name?
And they love that because
what
a lot of them are.
Yeah, but so why? So they're getting behind this guy. You know, they don't want crazy socialists. I understand the politics of that, but this guy's damaged goods, and they're trying to ride damaged goods to the White House just to get their power back. What does that say about them?
It says about them that they've been completely corrupted by the coverage they get. You know, if someone's not disciplined for doing something wrong, they do it again and again and again and again. At least if that kind of person. Now, Biden and Hillary Clinton don't believe in a million years they're going to get punished for the kinds of crimes they commit, in which all of us would go to jail.
You're right.
The press enables them. That's in their mentality. I noticed it when this first came out. Biden said the press has discounted this.
Yeah, right. They're on the same team.
The press discounted.
Right.
Who cares about the press?
Right.
The press discounted the mafia. Right. I mean, yeah, okay, Joe. The press discounted it. I mean, that's their mentality. And then he sent out to the press a notice that they shouldn't put me on television. Can you imagine if Trump put out a notice saying they shouldn't put Comey on television? I mean, it is so unfair. And I noticed one thing you said in your monologue. You talked about Mueller. Now, as I think back on it, and I think about my encounter with Mueller when I was representing the president, maybe they put him there because they knew he hardly knew where he was.
It's the perfect analogy.
Which he demonstrated when he testified.
It's the perfect analogy.
He let the animals run the zoo.
They put a guy up there that had, I guess, some stature, and then everybody else does what they do behind the scenes, and they can get away with it. And
it worked well for them.
It didn't work perfectly because no collusion, no obstruction. But I think you're going to get the same.
Out of that.
They did, but I think at the end of the day, they're going to get the same result that Joe Biden, which is another term for Donald Trump.
Was Hunter Biden profiting off his dad's work as vice president, and did Joe Biden allow it?
Well, I think there's kind of two separate issues here. The issue of whether it was wise of Hunter Biden to take this position at Burisma when his father was guiding policy in Ukraine, and the wisdom of Biden and Biden staffers once they knew that, not to ask Hunter to step down. I think that is a legitimate subject of scrutiny.
$50,000 a month for Hunter Biden, clearly to be selling influence, because otherwise no one would ever pay him that kind of money for a company that frankly was pretty corrupt and has been before and has been since under
And is that Joe Biden's fault or problem?
No, but it's hard to imagine Joe Biden wasn't aware of it.
Did Vice President Biden know of his son's role in Burisma when he told Ukraine to fire the prosecutor?
At that point, yes, he would have known. This situation involving Joe Biden's sons work for this Ukrainian oligarch-owned gas company, which is, I have to quibble with some of what your previous guest said, is a significant liability for Joe Biden. Like, there is a story here.
Does it raise any questions for you?
Well, clearly something needs to be cleared up at this point, right? So, yes, of course, I would want an explanation on that.
His kid was paid $600,000 because his name is Biden by a gas company in Ukraine, this super corrupt country that just had a revolution to get rid of corruption. It just looks bad.
Mr. Vice President, what's your take on that? Was there a conflict of interest there? Was there a clear conflict of interest? Can we ask you about Ukraine and China?
For two ethics plans, could you say whether or not under a Warren administration would your vice president's child be allowed to serve on a board of a foreign company?
No. Obama warned Biden's aides to make sure Biden didn't embarrass himself.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
Hello, Biden. I'm a Democrat. Tomorrow's Superstar Tuesday. 150 million people have been killed since 2007 when Bernie voted to exempt the gun manufacturers.
This is my little sister, Valerie.
And I'm Jill's husband. Oh, no, oh, you switched on me. This is my wife. This is my sister. They switched on me. My other three granddaughters are down in Dubuque with my wife, Jill.
And so, in Des Moines, I'm in Dubuque. All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Chris, but anyway.
Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. Text Joe 23. Excuse me, I got to get this right. 1976. And, the Lion Dog Face Pony Show.
I want to be clear. I'm not going nuts.
I can't talk. What do I do?
Please subscribe to our backup channels, Net4Truth USA 2 Patriot channel, BitChute.com/net4Truth USA, and drop.space/@Net4Truth USA. We fly so close to the target, we are on our 5th fighter jet. We will be relentless and persistent until the enemies of freedom are defeated. You can support this channel by using the links in the description, but for a $100 donation, I will personally send you a autographed hardcover special edition copy of Land of Childhood's Fears. Also, visit my bookstore at lulu.com/Net4Truth USA. If you are viewing this video on BitChute, you can use the links in the description to support us, or simply click the green $ dot on our video to support this channel. Thank you. Links are in the description section.